Anyway, my big why. Now I had to think back. I started homeschooling, I think Alicia it was the end of her third grade year. So out of my four children, my oldest one was the only one that went to started school out in the public system. So why did I start? There's a couple of reasons. I guess initially I had gotten to know some homeschool moms and started to learn about homeschooling. And I had had a conversation with my husband, and I just happened to say, I think when Alicia gets to be like middle school age, junior high age, I think I'd like to have her home. I'd like to have her home. And my husband said to me in that conversation, well, if that's something you want, then why wait? Well, I could think of a lot of reasons about why wait, but that got me to thinking about really what I wanted for my children. So I think initially I probably entered the homeschool arena with the idea that I wanted to bring my children up in a faith-based education. So I feel like that was sort of my starting point. I wanted to be able to integrate my belief in God into my children's learning. And I also, even in third grade, I am not going to go into details, but I remember Alicia coming home and telling me a story about something her teacher had told them. And I thought to myself, who talks about that with a third grader? And I thought, oh, wow, okay. So that was just like another little sort of piece of the turning point where I started to look at, do I want to do this? Is this something that I want for my family? So it started out with my faith. Some other big whys, though. Throughout the years, I found that having control over my schedule and when my children were sat down and did their math and did their reading and did all of that stuff, being able to schedule around the family, a piece of the family needs at that point. My husband is a registered nurse, and he worked nights many, many years. He worked those 3/12s kind of thing. So homeschooling, having the kids at home, I really can't imagine, because I guess, didn't really ever do that, because he got his degree when yeah, I don't know. He might have been working a little bit of nights when Alicia was going to school. But anyway, I digress. I can't really imagine what that would have been like had my husband been working nights, needing to sleep during the day, or at least part of the day, having my children in school, having to be there maybe from 7:30 to 3 or 8 to 4, 8 to 3, or whatever it would have been, having that big chunk, then also having the activities of sports and the activities of church, because we were very involved in things at church. That would have been very, very challenging. So it was wonderful to have the children there. I think they wouldn't have seen their dad a whole lot if we had had to navigate that. I also think back to the times where my mom and dad, when my dad retired. I think my nose itches. Sorry. Anyway, my dad retired, and my mom and dad decided to build a house in Florida and do some be a snowbirds. And I remember many years that I would drive the kids down. I'd have their school books with us, all of that, drive the kids to Florida. We would do school from Florida, from sunny Florida, when you're all up there dealing with all the snow and everything. We would have our learning down there. And then my husband oftentimes would fly down the last week or so, and then he would drive us back. I would not have been able to do that. My kids would not have been able to have that time with their grandparents and all of that. So the schedule became, and just that freedom, sometimes maybe your work schedule actually has I don't know, maybe maybe your spouse or you work like the weekend. And that's like maybe your Saturday, Sunday, those are work days for you, or Friday, Saturday are work days for you. And maybe Monday, Tuesday is really like your weekend. And so like I said, it can be big time. And if your kids are in school, obviously they have to be in school during that time. So, yeah, I really felt like the family together time that we got because we were homeschooling was just invaluable. That was probably a big why for me. As my kids got older, and they developed some interest, and I'm going to give you an example of this. I feel like the freedom of my children being able to really dig into an interest deeply was very valuable as well. I tell young parents or parents that are, when their children are just starting out, I said, focus on, your goal is for your children to learn to read, to write, to be able to do some math. That's your goal. Focus on those things, when you're starting out, when those kids are in those early years of schooling. And then when they get older, they can access any subject, any information that maybe interests them. And my son, I don't know if it was like 7th or 8th grade, at some point, he began teaching himself how to write digital music. I have no idea how he does it even to this day. But he did. He sat down, he taught himself how to write music on a computer. And he spent hours doing that. He would not have had the time to do that had he been in public school with all of the restrictions of that kind of schedule, as well as even just all the different subjects. And don't get me wrong, he was still learning his math. He was still learning history. We were still following that that learning, but because it was individualized and he was able to do it in a smaller amount of time. When we talk about schedules and time, that is another big piece. When your children are not going and having to sit in a classroom for 6.5 hours or whatever a school day is, but instead they can sit down and get things done in a couple of hours, they'll have a lot more time to go after those interests. So yeah, I guess those are some of my big whys. I'm sure there's more, but those were just some of the things that came to mind. So again, like I said at the beginning of the live, if you have any needs, private message me. I've already been meeting with quite a few parents, helping them answer their questions, getting a plan in place, helping with curriculum. Again, if you need help with the regulation and the paperwork that needs to be submitted, please private message me, and we'll get together either virtually or face to face, whatever works best for you. Have a